that, so tell me a story, if you would, about one of the situations that you've been in where you were able to put what you know into practice, and how did that turn out?
Yeah, well, I was very early in my career. I was lucky enough to be involved in a bank robbery with hostages, which, while it happens in the movies all the time, in the real world, it's a very rare event. Usually the bank robbers are long gone before the police show up, and there's almost never a situation where there's a negotiation of bank with hostages. It happened in New York City early in my career, and it had been 20 years since one had happened in New York City prior to that. That's how rare they are. And there were two bank robbers inside. One guy was a highly manipulative person who figured all along that he could outwit everybody, and he actually demonstrated a lot of techniques that I would refer to as a great CEO negotiator. He was constantly diminishing his influence on the inside. We got on the phone with him early on. He was like, "These guys I'm in here with, they're more dangerous than I am. As a matter of fact, I'm afraid of them." It's like a CEO saying, like, "Look, I can't make this deal because my board's going to fire me. You know, I don't know. I don't have any influence in my company. I'm a figurehead." That's an important guy. The guy who's diminishing their influence has a lot of it and doesn't want to get cornered. And that's exactly what this bank robber was about. Now, I gently confronted him. I was the second negotiator on the phone, and I was coached into some gentle confrontation by the NYPD Lieutenant Hugh McGowan, brilliant guy. He said, "I want you to do this, this, and this, and I want you to confront this guy on his name first chance you get," because this guy wouldn't even give us his name. What happens when you give up your name? When you give someone your name, you agree to influence. And if you refuse to give your name voluntarily, then you're holding a barrier up. And this guy had refused to give us even his first name all along. And about 5 hours in, when I was called in to be the next negotiator on the phone, we'd figured out who he was. And Hugh said, I want you to brace him with his name. Not accusingly, but let him know that we know who he is and see what happens. Triggered a bunch of changes. He immediately first went and got a hostage and put her on the phone to show us that he still had live hostages inside without making a threat. I'm talking to him, and suddenly this female comes on the phone. She says, "I'm okay." And I'm completely caught off guard. And he takes the phone back away from her, and it was his way of reminding us he had hostages without making a threat. Because he was smart enough that he knew that if he tempted fate too much, there's a pretty good chance that a sniper would take him out. He didn't want that. He wanted to figure his way out. I gently confronted him on a couple of other things. It was definite confrontation, but it was gentle. He hands off the phone to the other bank robber who does not want to be there. This guy is more concerned with surviving than getting away. And I dial into him very quickly, and just with what I often refer to as a late night FM DJ voice. About 90 seconds into my conversation with this guy, he says, "I trust you." And 2 hours later, he was surrendering to me outside of the bank.
What happened to the other guy who was more manipulative and smarter and more in control?
Well, he never, right up to the last minute, about 12 hours into the scenario, he got talked out. Now, the second bank robber comes out, explains everything to us about what's going on. There aren't 7 people inside. There aren't 7 bank robbers from different countries. There's one guy left, and even though he still won't admit what his name is, that is the name that you have. So we get back on the phone with him, and now I'm out of the game because I'm debriefing the guy who surrendered to me. Next negotiator up is a hostage negotiator named Dominic Messino, NYPD negotiator that, to this day, and Dominic is since deceased, but Dominic was one of the world's great closers. Dominic was a closer, and he just gently, narrowly kept taking ground away from the other guy that was inside. And his first conversation with him was gentle confrontation. He said, "All right, so we've got your partner out here. We know who you are. We know what's going on. What do you want me to call you? And even being told that we had his name, this guy comes back and says, call me Billy, which is not his name. Dominic is smart enough to go like, I'm not going to get into a fight with this guy over his name. He's like, you want me to call you Billy? Okay, I'll call you Billy. Dominic continued to talk to him. We start working on this guy to come out. So what does he do to continue to maintain control inside and buy himself time? He lets a hostage go. He's got 3 of them inside. He's got hostages, he's got spares. And he knows that if he lets a hostage go, the chances of us assaulting the building now diminish radically and buy him more time. So he lets one go, and finally he lets another one go. And the irony of this guy's nature in not collaborating with us, no matter what, was when it came down at the end while we're pressuring him to let the 3rd hostage go, he agrees to come out just to spite us. And these type of situations, a human being trapped into in a foreign environment, which is not their home, we call it unprepared, unprepared for. He's not prepared for a long siege in a bank that he's walked into first thing in the morning. He's not going to be able to get a good night's sleep. He's going to start running out of gas at about 12 hours in. It's just the nature of human beings. And almost exactly 12 hours into the siege, he agrees to come out, and he is looking around. I can see the images in my head right up to the moment that we put handcuffs on him. He was still looking for a way out. And interestingly enough, while he was inside, the part of the bank was under construction. So what he did was he took a lot of the bank money and he set it on fire in the middle of the floor. And then he hid a lot of bank money in the construction in the walls, obviously with the plan. They're not going to miss the hidden money in the walls. They're going to think that it was all burned up. I'm going to be able to come out of here when I get a chance, come back here when I get a chance, when I'm out on bail, and I'm going to grab the spare money and I'm going to get out of here. And that's how he convinced himself that it was finally okay to surrender.